Alright, so let's start putting some of this stuff together. Before we make any drawing on this part, let's look at the basic shapes and see which ones we can find here. Alright, so before we get into the drawing process, establishing the height, all that stuff, I want to know what I'm dealing with. So what basic shapes do I see here? Well, first and foremost, there is that basic cylinder, but you can see it's also wider here, so I can see that there's a sphere. So I'm going to break it down. First and foremost, I can see there's a cone. So I'm going to have a cone, all right, and I'm just sketching it out down here. Just sketching it out. I'm going to have a cone in the middle, all right, and that's based on the top. The base has a curve to it, and that base goes rounded. So it's actually, the base is cylindrical. So I can see that I have the width here is a little bit wider than the base. So the narrower base, that gives me a cylinder. Alright, so that's the second basic shape. Third basic shape is we've got an oval, but this isn't an egg oval. This is more of a full round, almost like an ellipse, because I can look at the widths here. So the oval that I'm dealing with now is going to be more of a wide, almost a wide ellipse. So I want to sketch that in. Alright, that gives me the three foundational forms that make up the body. What about the handle? Well, the handle has some thickness, and in fact the handle, since it's rounded on the side here, that is actually a molded cylinder. So in this case it would have to be whatever shape is touching there, and then I could kind of draw it down like that, and there's even another little wider part right there, almost like a cone. Alright, but that's really just going to be a tapered cylinder. Right, this line defines the center of it, and then this becomes the shape of the handle where it attaches to the body of the pot. So I've got a handle there, it's a cylinder, it's a flattened cylinder shape. The last shape is this shape here for the spout. And if I look, that's pretty much a three-sided pyramid. So that three-sided pyramid is going to come down the front of the pot, it's going to go out like that, and then it's going to come in this way, and it goes across like that. So there's the third side in perspective, right? It goes down behind it like that. So those are the basic shapes that make up this form. So now I want to put it all together over here, and I want to establish all of that stuff just like we did with our drawing process, establishing the height, line of symmetry, widths, basic shapes, which we've already figured out. Now we got to figure out how to put them into this, then develop the structure. Again, we're not getting into steps 6 and 7 just yet. So from here, we're just going to do the process that we did before, the way we did it before. So the highest point right here is going to be there. There's my top. There's my bottom. All right, light pencil lines, blocking technique. Now, my line of symmetry. So if I look at this box right here is the same size as the photo box. So I'm just going to go right down the middle with my line of symmetry. Nice and light. All right. Now I'm going to establish my widths. Since I don't have the ability to move the photo over here above it or below it, what I want to do is I'm going to use my pencil, or I could use, my fingers, but sometimes the pencil works really well. So if I put this right here in the middle at the widest point, and then I use a measurement with my pencil point and my fingers, and I bring that over here and I line it up in the middle, okay, right about here and right about there. That's the widest point on the hip on that bottle. So if I drew lines straight up from that, okay, nice and light, I'm giving myself that widest rectangle that we did before when we did that other vase. Okay? So there's that widest rectangle. Alright, now I want to look at, if I notice too, the end of the spout is as wide as the body of the pot. The handle obviously is going to come out almost to the edge. So this point here, I know that the handle is going to be much wider. This point is not the same width. You notice this corner here is not as wide as the body. So if I measure that again, I take my fingers now, I can measure the hip here, I can bring it over, I'm good on that. But I can see that the lip in here, what's the width on the base of the cone? So if I take that over here and I bring it over, center it, the width of the cone are marked like that. So that's the width of the base of the cone. All right? And obviously, you can see some of the pyramid comes inside of that, right? Because this part of the triangle shape comes inside of that mark right there. Now that we've got the widths of the top, I need to figure out the width of the base. All right, that cylinder. What's the width of that cylinder base? So if I take my fingers like this and I mark those two spots there and I bring them over here and here. So that's the widest point of the base, but you notice that is not where the curve goes. Those lines are above the curve. So those marks are going to be up here somewhere. All right. So now I want to go with my big shapes. All right. I'm going to set up my big oval first. And if I even just sketch on top, I can see that the oval comes to the front edge. Where's the front edge of my ellipse? It's right about there. All right. Back edge is there. The front edge of my ellipse is there. So if I start now with my oval, all right, and now I put my cylinder in, and in this case it's just the base of the cylinder. Okay, now I look at where my cone is. All right, these are the widest points of the cone. So now the cone is going to come down. Look at the cone coming down. The cone kind of comes down to there and to there. So I can just draw right on there, and then I can recreate that same mark right to there. There's my cone, so that gives me the widest point. Now I want to put in my ellipse, which I know goes from here. The back of it's there. Alright, so there's my ellipse. And now, widest point out there, I've got to put in my pyramid. And this curve right here is in front of that part of the pot. So I'm just going to put that basic triangular shape right there. And now, best thing to do when you're doing the handle is like I did over here, find the middle. Alright, so the base of the handle hits the pot about there. That's the middle of the base of the handle. The top edge of the handle hits the side of the vase right about there. So now, if I come out this far and I look at how close it is to the edge of the photo. All right, that distance there, this would be the middle. All right, here's the edge of the photo. I've got about this much distance for the outer edge of the handle to hit. So I come to the middle. All right, so there's a line to draw the middle of it. Now, where's the width of it? Here's the bottom width. Here's the top width. Curves up. And it kind of cones out at the bottom. This is right about here. And it starts here. And it touches the edge of the bottle. So this middle line is really sketchy line. Obviously later I can erase that once I start fleshing it all out. I also want to establish the space. There's the line behind, here's the line above, and right here is the background. All right. So there's my basic shapes. That is steps 1 through 4. Now I want to develop the structure a little bit. I have to make sure I'm accounting for the thickness of the parts. So I can look at the thickness and I can see that this part of the pyramid comes out, creates a little ridge right there, and then that gives me the inner curve, and then I have the outer ellipse, the thickness of the clay body. All right. Now I can just use the other guidelines to try to get a more accurate curve, right? I just hit the points. I hit the point there, bring that down, I'll hit the body edge there, but now I notice too, right? I can't make this angle right there, bang, bang. I have to soften that. So as I come down, this line now will extend to the edge of the cylinder, right? You can see it kind of comes down, and then it hits the cylindrical base and curves up. Same thing on this side. Okay, the handle goes into the body of the clay, and the handle then comes down and then picks up with this and goes behind this part of the clay body, and it continues down along my oval, and I jump out and I hit the edge there where I have my ellipse, and that gives me the finished bottle structurally. Now obviously, getting into the contour stuff, we're going to talk more about that. But once I've gotten this done, obviously this needs to be checked. So I want you to show it to me. I want to make sure that you're getting the basic shapes blocking techniques down really well, because you're going to do them 2 more times using these images. All right, so you're going to open up to the next page in your sketchbook, and you're going to do 2 per page. So I've got my blocking done there, so I'm going to go to my page of my sketchbook, and now on these are not fixed. So I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to do the first one on this half of the paper. So I'm just going to give myself a split down the middle. Okay, all right, that fits there nice and neat, all good. And now I'm going to use this and do the same thing. So I'm going to draw the bottle and the apple, and then over here I'm going to draw the pot as it needs to be based on the size. Okay, looking at all the blocking techniques, you're going to draw these 2 objects here and this object here.